Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and welcome to Project Manager Part 8. We've got a brand new year view where we can automatically select on any project, have those project details displayed. We can also automatically make changes and have those changes displayed directly in the year view schedule. We've got a lot to show you. We have the ability to scroll vertically and horizontally for the entire year to display all of those projects selected. We also have previous year and next year buttons. We've got a lot to cover in this brand new episode. Let's get started. Alright, thanks so much for joining me today. As stated, we've got a lot to cover. We've got a brand new year view here, which is going to display all of our projects on a year view basis. Of course, we still have the month view and day view. We can quickly switch between those buttons. And of course, we also have the ability to select any specific project in a year view, have that project automatically change to the orange color, display the project. We also have the ability to display colors for different projects. For example, projects that are in status are going to show yellow. And of course, if we go ahead and make those changes and we change it to completed, and then when we select another job, of course, because the selected one's going to be in orange, we will quickly see that it's going to turn to green for completed. So we've got completed, we've got pending. Pending would be in blue, and we have set for in process to yellow. So for example, this selected one, once we go off the selection, it's going to appear in yellow because our selected one's going to always appear in orange so that we know exactly which project we are on. And of course, we can make those updates automatically simply by making any kind of a change. It's going to update that schedule. For example, this new site design project is scheduled for 10 days. If we were to reduce it down to just 5 days, it's going to automatically update in the schedule. Or if we change it to 50 days, again, it's going to automatically update. I can't wait. We got a lot to show you today. We have also had the ability, of course, to do previous and next year buttons. Going to update it automatically, that schedule. We have, of course, we still have the show task and hide task, but we'll keep those hidden for now. This is going to save space. So I have also added the ability to list all projects. We've got an advanced filter to show that. And it's a lot. We also have the projects sorted by date so that the earliest ones are going to appear first and the latest ones are going to appear last. This gives you the ability to scroll, to continue scrolling down to show all the projects scrolling from up to down, and then of course from left to right. So we have that ability. We also automatically freeze panes based on the selection so that this top row is frozen. Of course, the left columns are also frozen. So it's a lot to show you. We've got conditional formatting, we've got sorting, we've got advanced filters. So there's a ton of great features. I want you to stick with us. And of course, if this is your first time viewing one of our videos, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And of course, click on that notification bell. That's going to keep you getting these notifications for each and every Tuesday as a brand new 1-hour video training each and every week on something new features, how we turn Excel into amazing applications. And of course, if you do want to support us, these videos are free. So we do have some amazing offers. I've got a 100 workbook for just $37 for at least for now, and I'll include the links down below. I've also got an ultimate Excel resource guide, and that's just $67, and that's going to include 1,000 different links giving you the ultimate Excel resources. It includes 100 PDF downloads, and of course it includes 100 Excel websites and blogs. We've got 100 utilities and add-ons. Amazing. And of course, if you haven't yet, please join our Advanced Excel Dashboard Masterclass. That's an amazing 15-hour masterclass showing you a single-click dashboard. So that's going to really help us out, keep these videos for free. So I'll keep that in mind. I also have an upcoming mentorship program coming in July of 2019. Depends on when you're watching this. So I look forward to bringing that to you. All right, let's get started. We've got a lot to cover. As mentioned, we now have a brand new year view. And of course, we have displayed the entire year here in columns. And basically it's organized so all the way from January to December, and it's going to display the year and the month. So the first thing we want to do is I've got to set the specific year. What year are we on? What year? So we need to keep track of what year we're on, and we're going to do that in our hidden columns. So when we unhide, we're going to show that that year is always going to be tracked in B10. So the year. VBA is going to control that. So when we go to previous year, that's going to change to 2018. Next year, it's going to go. So this basically cell B10 is always going to keep track of whatever year we're on. Once we know the year, of course, we can then make the updates accordingly and automatically change this month and stuff. For example, I'll get to this in a second. We also have, just while I have this column open, we have a schedule view. Now this B11 is simply going to keep track of what view we're on. So when we click day view, it's going to change to day. When we click month view, it's going to change to month. And likewise, when we click year view, that's going to change the year. So these are pretty much the only two areas in these hidden columns, B10 and B11. B10 keeps track of the year. B11 keeps track of what view. So I'm going to hide those now because that's all we're going to really focus on. That's all I've added on this. And of course, if you haven't checked out the earlier episodes, I'll make sure you include it. We're on number 8 of the project manager, so we're building this as go. We'll probably conclude about a total of 10, and then we'll move on to something else. So I've got about 2 more episodes. So if there's something you want to see and I haven't covered it yet, please go ahead and add your comments below, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're viewing this, and I'll try to get to it within the next 2 episodes. So I do always appreciate your comments, your likes, and your shares. That keeps us growing, and I do appreciate that. All right, moving on. So we know what B10 and B11 are focused on. So for example, if we're going to cover this and we want this cell dynamic, I want to show January and whatever year it is. So as we move the year, it's going to change to 2018 or 2000. And of course, I don't have any projects in 2020. I don't have any projects in 2018, just 2019. So it's going to be dynamic. So in this particular cell, it's a simple formula. B10 we know is the year, and then the 1st of January and the day of 1st. We're going to use date formula. Date formula, we have the year plus the first month plus the first day. So that's going to automatically, and then we go ahead and format that to get that January 2009. All we've done is taken the format. So when we look in the format, we will see that it has a custom format. And when we look in deeper, we'll see that we're going to use the long month name, which is 4 M's, and of course the long year name, which is 4 Y's. That's going to give us this full month name and the full year. So that's how we've done that. And we've done that format for each and every one. And I've merged and centered these. January is made up of 31 days. So 31 columns. Starting here, if we highlight all of the columns, we will see that it's 31 columns in the upper left right there. And February actually is different. You know, we have to accommodate for leap year. So February theoretically could be 28 or 29 days. 2019 is a non-leap year, so we've got 28 days. Now when we update the schedule, I'm going to show you how we're going to show whether it's 29 days and or 20 days. And we do that with a hidden column. And so we're going to hide or show a column based on the number of days, based on the leap year. So we have here, it's actually 29 days, but because 2019 is not a leap year, we're going to hide that column. So as soon as we refresh the schedule, just by updating it, we're going to say it's going to hide that column. Now on non-leap year, when we do refresh the schedule, we're going to see that it's automatically going to expand based on that. And I'll show you how we do that in the code. So it's going to be great. So now basically what I want to do is I want to load the specific job when we select it. And you'll see we also have a few different features. Also, what I want to do is I want to show the job based on a completed date. So you see this job was completed. It's scheduled for 1 week. However, it was completed in about 30 days. So I want to show the actual completed date. Now, if we were to remove the completed date and we update, you'll see it goes back to just the 1 week. So it's based on the estimated date until we actually complete it. So if we change this, right? So we change it to 2 weeks. But what if we complete it? What if we set a completed day on January, let's say back to 28th or 29th? We can see that it's going to be based on the completed date. So the length of it is going to default to the completed on date if it's been completed. However, if it's not been completed on, it's going to be based on the estimated duration, 2 weeks or 1 week. So as soon as we remove that completed date, it's going to revert back to whatever basically what we have is the duration. So if we change this to 3 weeks without a completed on date, it's going to update automatically in here. It's orange because that's the selected date. And when we select on another one, we'll see it automatically load. So the orange one is always going to be there. All right, now before we get into conditional formatting, I'd like to get into the VBA and show just how we did this. Okay, but before we do that, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to run an advanced filter like I always do, and we're going to base it on the year, B10, right? So what I want is I want from this project list here, in our project list, I want to know all jobs that have a job within the year. That means anything that has at least 1 day in the year. It could have started before, as long as it has 1 day in the year, or it could have started during that year and ended after the year. But any job that has at least 1 day inside, or any project inside that year, I want it to show up. So we do an advanced filter for that. And if you look here, we've got our month view criteria. We're not going to go with that. We've got a brand new criteria. We've got day view here, which we covered, and a brand new year view criteria. And so there's really three conditions for any specific job that I want within that year. Basically, it's going to, if there's a start date that is less than or equal to that year, January 1st, and a end date that's greater than. In other words, let's say the project covers the entire year. Let's say it starts in 2018 and goes all the way until 2020. I want to make sure to include that. That would be any project that has a start date of less than 43466. So what is 43466? That is the code, the date code, as a formula, date code based on the year. B10, remember, Project Manager B10, that's our year. Right? So if we have a date with the year of B10, which is our year, plus 1 for the month, which is January, plus 1 for the date. So any project that starts before or equal to that date and ends after or equal to the end of the year. What is the last date of the year? Well, the last date of the year is, of course, also B10, but of course that's going to be December of 31. So we're using the date feature. Remember, the date is year, month, and day. So the year we know is on B10 of the project manager. The month in this case would be December, and the day would be 31. So in this particular condition, I'm looking for any job that starts on or before the 1st of January and greater than on or after the last day. So that would mean something that would start in year 2018 and end in year 2000. That would be included. That's one choice, right? One. This is and, or which would be line 2, or which would be line 3, or what? What are the other conditions? Any project that has a start date greater than or equal to the first day of the year, and a start date less than or equal. So that means the start date is within the year, or less than or equal to the last day of the year. If a project has a start date within the year, I want it included. And then, of course, we can do the same thing for end date. If a project has an end date greater than or equal to the first day of the year and less than or equal, I want that included. So let's go over the three choices again. Any project that starts on or before the first of the year and ends on or after that year, I want included. Any project that has a start date within the year, or any project that has an end date within the year, include it. Make sure you include that. So all these three choices are going to be included. Once we run all of our projects through this criteria, I want the results here. I want the results to appear right here. I want the project name, the status, the start date, the end date, and if there's a completed on date. Remember, end date is based on the suggested end date. End date is based on the suggested end date, whereas completed on date is when the actual job was completed, if it was completed. If it's not completed, then we're going to base our year schedule on the end date. But if it is completed, we're going to base it on the completed date. And of course, the row, that's something that I'll be updating. We're not quite using that feature yet, but we may one day, so I'm just included it here. But right now, for our training today, we're not going to use it, but it's something that we could use it. And why do we want that row? Well, if I make an update on a specific job, probably wouldn't use it in the year view, but I do want it so that I know what row to update. If we make an update, we may do it for day view. What that means is that when we click day view and I make an update right here, I need to know what row this project is on, or task. I need to know what row. So if I make that change, then I can automatically, if I make a change here, then it will automatically update here, and we know what row. So that's why, and all it is just a formula row. So we know what rows. And we can copy this over, and we can bring this down here, and then paste the formulas in here. So that'll give us a row. So I've got that added in. It's something that I may use in the future, but it's always good to have it just in case you need it. So we've covered that. All right, so you understand. So then what I'm going to do is I've got the results. Then what I want to do is I'm going to start a loop, starting from number 4, going to the last one. And I'm going to loop through each one of these, and I want to bring the project name in here. I want to put the project status somewhere, because I'm going, and I'll show you where we're going to put it, because the colors are based on the project manager, right? So the colors of the year view are based on the status, right? So this is green, right? If we select it, it's going to be orange. But what if I change it to pending? And then of course, if I select off it, right now it's still orange because we're selected, but if I select off it and select something, you'll see it changes to blue. So blue is our pending color, and I'll show you how we did that. We did that with conditional formatting, of course, because it's a lot faster. And so actually our statuses are all based on the cells here. You'll see that all the statuses are here based off the sheet. So off the main area of the year view, and we're going to show you how that's done. So it's based on that. All right, so let's get to it. So basically what I do is I'm going to bring all the data from the project list, bring it all in here using a loop, and then we're going to basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the job number in this, or the project number in the specific cell. So if you look at this, you'll see the cell value is 1. If you look at this, you'll see the cell value is 8. Those are the project numbers. So when I select on it, all I need to do is take the project number, load it in here, and then it's going to load. So for example, if I select 8, it's going to automatically change to 8. So all I need to do is take whatever value is in here, because our VBA code is going to place the value. It's so small you can't see it, right? But and I've also changed the color to the same as the background color, so you can't see it, but it's there. So the project number is in each one of those cells. So if I select a blank cell, you'll see there's no project number. So that's how we can differentiate. If we select a specific project, all I need to do is take whatever the value of that cell is and place it right in here. And that's going to automatically load that project. So we're going to show you how we did that. Let's go into the main feature. Actually, let's go into the VBA, and we're going to take a look at the macros that we've done to actually change the view here on day, month, and year. And I've made some updates on that. So let's go into the developers and take a look under the hood and see exactly how we completed that. I want to show you every single step. Into the developers tab, click on Visual Basic. Shortcut, of course, Alt F11 will get you there. And we've got the schedule miscellaneous. In this particular module, I've got 3 different views. I've got a schedule refresh, and I'll show you what that means. And I've got day view, month view, and year view. And I've made some updates to this. We had day view and month view before, and now we have year view. The first thing I want to do is I want to create one macro called schedule refresh, regardless of where I am, what view I'm on. I want to just refresh it, and want to run that macro as soon as we make an update, right? Let's say I want to change this start date to the 9th, and I want to make that update. I want to run a macro called schedule refresh. And what that macro is going to do is it's going to figure out, okay, well, what view are we on? Day view? Are we on month view, or are we on year view? What view is currently visible? And then based on that view, and if you remember in B11 stores that view, right? We saw that before, B11. So right now we're on year view. So based on whatever's in B11, we're going to run the macro. We have different macros to refresh the different schedules. So if we go back into, so what I want to do is I want to determine if B11 equals day, run the day view refresh. if B11 equals month, run the project schedule load. This is going to load the month view based on whether it's a project or resource. And of course, we have the brand new macro called if the value is schedule year, then view schedule year view refresh. Now, why do I have just one macro here to do that? Because when we make a change to a specific project, I want to run just this one macro. Let me show you here. In the project macro, in the project manager on sheet, so when we make a change to this sheet, when we make a change to any of these fields, any of those fields are we making a change to, as long as it's not a new project, that's basically any of these fields here, right? Once we make a change, I want to refresh the schedule. I want to refresh the schedule, and that could be whether we're on month view, day view, or year view. I want to refresh that. So all I did is the end. So once we update the database, all the way at the end of this macro, I'm going to run this macro here called schedule refresh. And that's going to refresh the day, month, or year view schedule. So what that's going to do is go into schedule, and it's going to run this macro right here. And based on whatever the current view is, day, month, or year, we're going to run a different macro based on that. And the schedule year view refresh is what we're going to be looking at in just a moment. But the brand new macro that I have is called schedule year view. This is the macro that runs when I actually click this button right here. That's the macro. So if we're on month view and I want to do a few things, I want to click on year view. And what that's going to do is basically hide and show columns. Well, I want to hide all the columns except I want to show HS all the way through. Actually, let's take a look. All the way through VU. I believe it's VU. So if we clicked on the last column here, VU, right? VU is the last December 31st. I want to show all of those columns, and I want to hide everything else. And I also want to secure, I want to be able to scroll vertically like this, and I want to be able to scroll horizontally like this with this region fixed. So the way we do that is I'm going to select this cell, which is VUHT4, and then we're going to freeze the panes, and then we're going to do that through VBA. And basically all of that, although that we're doing is we're selecting on HT4 and then we're clicking freeze. Right now we're unfreezing panes, but if we select that and then we click on view and we click freeze panes, it's going to be the exact same thing, and that's going to have that vertical and horizontal scrolling fixed so that we have our top rows fixed and we have our left panel fixed, so that regardless of the job, even as we move forward and we select the job, we can always see that job details right here, the project details right here. So that gives us a lot of freedom that we can move and show projects, or we can scroll as far down as we need to, as well as we have a lot of projects. So that gives us a lot of flexibility. But I only want that freeze when we're on year view. When we're on month view, I don't want it. In fact, I could probably add a freeze right here, probably to site redesign, probably add that freeze right here. R4 would be the freeze, R4, and that way I just haven't done it yet, but we would probably want to do that so that we can continue it. In fact, let me do that, R4, so we can show you just how I want to freeze R4 on month view. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So right now we have month view, we have year view. So in year view, let's take a look at this. Active window freeze panes, HT4 select active window panes. So let's do that. Let's copy this. So in year view, we're selecting HT4, and then we're going to active window freeze panes. But I want to do the same thing with a different cell in the month view, and in fact that's going to be R4. So let's do that. So when we're in month view, in fact, we can just copy this, and then once we're in month view, we can enter, and then all we're going to do is make that R4. So now we have that, and the first thing we want to do is unfreeze all the panes, right? Unfreeze them, and we should probably do that with this as well, just making sure that they're unfrozen. That gives us the freedom to unfreeze. Oh, we have it here, false here. All right, so we've covered that. All right, no need for that, and no need for that. Okay, so we've got it here. As long as we're unfreezing them and selecting a new and then refreezing them, that's going to do it. So now when we click month view, and now we see that we have the ability to scroll up, and we have the ability to scroll up. So that's nice. I like that as well. Day view, let's take a look at day view. We can do the same thing for day view on HA4. Let's do the same thing for day view. So we can just go into day view, enter, and then paste here. Let's copy this here, and then we're going to do the same thing, paste it here, but this time it's going to be HA. Okay, good. So now we have the ability to freeze the panes based on the specific view. So now when we click day view again, we have the ability to scroll up and scroll to the left, keeping the project, which is a very nice feature. All right, back into the year view, and let's go over the actual macro that loads this year view. But briefly, before I do that, I wanted to finish up. So year view, we're going to do a few things. When we select year view button, I'm going to stop the calculation just to make it faster. Of course, that turns screen updating off here under the code reset Mac. Turn screen updating false here, and Mac calculations to manual, and enabling events false. So, and then of course resetting the calculation is going to turn all those on. It's going to enable events true. Calculation is going to turn back to automatic, and screen updating to true. So that's how we do that. And of course, I want to unhide HS through VV. We went over that. HS, that's our month. That's our month columns, right? Starting at HS, because that's our projects, and all the way to VV. I guess we're going to use VV, which is actually the column after. I'm going to unhide those. I want those displayed, so we need to unhide those. And the rest, the other ones, R through HR, I want hidden. So we're going to hide those. The month group, this is a group of buttons based on the month. We don't need to see those because those are only for month. The day group, those are buttons based on the specific day. We have a button set, group of buttons based on the day. We want to hide those. And I've got a brand new year group. And what is the year group? All it is these two buttons, here and here. And I've grouped them together and I've named them year group. So I want these buttons hidden unless it's year view. So when we click month and day, I want those hidden, and when we click year, I want those displayed. And as you can see, month view has its own button set right here called month view. Day view, of course, also has its own button set and it includes some other buttons. So it's got here group and it's called day group. So basically I'm hiding or showing that group based on the selection. And we do that just in the code here. So we hide or show these groups based on whatever view it is. B11, this is our new field. We're going to set B11. Remember, B11 is the value based on whatever view. So we're setting it to year. Of course, B11 here would be month, and B11 here would be day. So that's B11, of course, controls our view and lets us know what view. All right, of course, we went over this already. We're going to unfreeze all the panes. We're going to select HT4 and then freeze them. And then I'm going to run the schedule year view refresh. This is a brand new macro that I've added called schedule year view refresh. And what that macro is going to do is basically it's going to clear all the data here, run our advanced filters based on the project, get those results, bring those results back into here. And that's the macro we're going to go over right now. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that macro. And I've got a brand new module called schedule year view, schedule year view. So we have that. And basically this module is made up of 3 different macros. The first macro is next year, the second macro is previous year. And all I'm doing in these 2 macros is I'm just changing the value in B10. B10, remember, it controls our year. It's the displayed year. So all we're going to do is reducing that year by 1 for previous year and increasing that value by 1 for the next year. After we do that, all we're going to do is run the macro that refreshes the schedule. That's this macro right here. That is the macro we're going to go over right now. So let's give this a start. I want to keep track of what row we're on in the schedule. That's very important. As we loop through these rows, I need to keep track of what row. We're going to start that row off in 4, but we're going to continue all the way down for as many projects. So we need to keep track of what row we're on. That's going to be called the schedule row. So we've defined that as a long value here. The last project row, we need to run our advanced filter on all the projects, and I need to know what the last row is. In this case, it's 17. I also need to keep track of whatever project we're on. We're going to loop, not here, here in the year view results. We're going to loop through starting at 4, going all the way down to our results. Those are the results of the criteria here. So we're going to loop through that, starting here in 4 and going all the way to the last. I need to know the last results row of our project. It's going to be 17 in this case. We're going to loop through each one and go through each one. So we need to keep track of the starting row, we need to keep track of the last row, and I need to keep track of what row we're on. So we need to define all those as variables in our code. The last task row, I don't think we need this. We're not going over tasks right now. The last project results row. That's important. That's going to keep track of our last project results row. We're not going through tasks. We may add tasks to the year view, but for now it's okay. If I add those tasks, then we will need those last task row, but right now we're just going to keep it simple. So I want to know the last project results row. That's our advanced filter. When we get those results, I need to keep track of the last row. Of course, when we loop through those projects, starting in row 4 and going all the way down to the results, we need to keep track of what row we're on as far as the results. And we also need to keep track of the project days. I need to know how many days we're in that project. If I'm going to run our project manager, I need to know exactly how many days. In this case, this project is a total of 14 days. So I need to know the number of days. And of course, that's going to be the number of days is going to be either the completed on or, of course, the end date. The end date is not displayed here, but it's displayed in our database right here under end date based on a calculation. So either the completed on date or the end date minus the start date is going to give us our project days. So we need to keep track of the project days. We're going to define that as a variable. The start column, that is the start column. I need to know the number of that starting column. That's the start day. We need to know what column we're going to start at. I also need to know the schedule year. And of course, if it's a leap year, we're going to add one specific columns or add one number to the day, so we're going to keep track of that as a variable as well. And I need to know the start and end dates as dates, and of course whether it is a leap year or not as Boolean true or false. So we need to know that. The actual schedule row, we're going to start on this 4. That's going to be defined, right? Our first row, our first project is going to be on row 4. So we need to set that equal to 4. And then we'll continue down and increase that as we move through the projects down below. This is just a little notation. Our first column is 228. What is that? That is this right here. If we take a look at this column, that's our January 1st. That's our first column. If we click on that, if we expand this, we're going to see that column is 228. The value here is 228. So our first column, our first job is going to be on 228. That's important because we need to know where we're going to start. For example, if there's a job scheduled on January 1st, we need to start this on that first one. And you'll see there's a 1 there. In fact, it's colored green, which is fine, because you can't see it, but 1 is the project number. The project number is always located there. So the important thing is 228 is our first column. We can bring this back down to a little bit small, whatever that was. Let's see, it was 50, a half a pixel, so we can bring that to 50. Okay, so that's the important thing. Our first column is 228. So I'll leave that in the notations just so you know that. Column 1, first day, January 1st, 228. We're going to focus on sheet 1. That's where our focus is going. We're going to stop the calculations. Of course, this macro is going to turn the calculations to manual, screen updating to false, and enabling events to false. That speeds things up a lot. The first thing I want to do in sheet 1, HS4 all the way through ALF, I want to clear the contents, right? I want to clear any project starting here, HS4, all the way to the last, all the way to 994. Actually, what I want to do is I want to clear out any of this detailed information. I want to clear all that out so that we can get that ready for the new projects to be added in. So the first thing you want to do is clear it all out. So if we clear it all out, just click delete and it's going to clear it all out, and that's going to clear it out. So here again, it's going to update it. So we need to do that. So that's the first thing I want to do. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that we're clearing out any of the results. So these results for this advanced filter, I want to clear that out as well. So on sheet 2, this is sheet 2 project list, from BK4 all the way through BQ and all the way down, I'm going to clear that results out because we're going to run a brand new advanced filter and have that data appear here. So we also want to do that in the code. Sheet 2, BK4 through BQ, clear any project results. That's important. Clear the tasks. We don't need this. We're not focused on the tasks right now. We could add tasks in the future, so I'll consider that. So we don't need that right now. The last project row, remember, we're going to run an advanced filter, so I need to know what the last project row is so that we can run our advanced filter. Sheet 2A, of course, is where our projects are located. This is going to get us our last row of the project. We need to run a check just in case there is no data in the projects, just in case, like, let's say it's your first project. We don't want to continue on if there are no projects. For example, the project row is less than 4. We need to just skip all of this because there's nothing to add and go to no project data. That's going to send send the VBA code all the way down here and skip everything else. So we don't need to know that. All right, next up, what I want to do is we're going to run our advanced filter. Within sheet 2, A3, of course, that includes the first column plus the header through M in the last project row. We've gone over advanced filter so many times, almost in every single video, so we'll go quick. Advanced filter, we're going to copy that information. We're going to use the criteria. Those are the dates that I went over with you, starting with the headers and going all the way down. Those dates are those 3 different conditions. 1, 2, 3, starting with our row BE all the way to BH. BE3 through BH6. This is all the criteria I want to base, and then I want to put the results right here. So results are going to go from BK3 through BQ3. That's where we're going to put our results. So we do that with the BE3 is our criteria. Where do our results go? Our results go right here. BK3 to BQ3. And that's going to get us all of our results. The next thing I want to do, again, I want to check if the last row, we're going to set the last results row. In this case, it's 17, but what if it's less than 4? If it's less than 4, that means there is no data, and we don't need to continue. So we do need to run a check on that. And we can do that with the next lines of code. The first thing I want to do is determine the last project results row. In this case, it's 17. So we're going to do that with BK using column BK end. And then, of course, if the last project row is less than 4, then go to no project data. Again, no data, no results, so we don't need to continue on. All right, assuming it is, what I want to do is when we run projects, I want to sort those projects. I want to sort them. The earliest I want here, the latest I want here. So, for example, let's say site design, it starts on January 1st, but what if we start that on February 1st? If I change the month here, I want it to automatically resort it. So when we change it, so now you see it's automatically site redesign is now February. I want to sort it automatically, resort it. I want the first one of the year, so that way as we scroll down in the year and as we move over, we can only focus on whatever. So for example, if it's March, right? Here we only need to focus on the 2 projects. It's very easy. We can just look at those projects for March as we scroll down. So sorting it is a really nice feature so that the earliest appear at the top, the latest appear at the bottom. And of course, if we change that back, right, we have site redesign. If we change that back to January 1st, of course, it's going to put it right at the top again automatically. So I want to sort these jobs, the earliest on the top, the latest on the bottom. So when we have those results, we can do that right here. So when I have the results, I want to then sort all of these fields based on the start date, based on whatever's in BN4, and sort it all the way down. Our control key, and of course I want to sort it ascending from the smallest to the largest. So we can do that with the next few lines of code. Sort projects by start date. First, we're going to clear any sort fields that might have been on. Next thing, we're going to set the key. It's of course BN4, that is the start date, the first start date. I want to sort on values and ascending. And of course, we're going to sort normal. So with sheet 2 sort, what's the range? BK4 through BQE and the last row. Let's look at that. BQ, actually, so BQ, I'll fix that. BQ in the last row. So let's fix that BQ, not E, and the last results row. So we're going to sort that and apply that sort, and then we're going to, now we have them sorted. So now we have them sorted with the earliest date. So now we are ready to bring that information in. We're going to set the schedule year to B10. B10 is our schedule year. Remember, we went over that. I want to set that into a variable schedule year here because we're going to use that. Next, I need to check for a leap year. Is it a leap year or not? Is it a leap year? How do we test for a leap year? Well, if you look at this, the month, right, we can have a month. What is the month of a specific date? The month of February 29th. If this is a non-leap year, this is going to be 3. It's going to be considered March 1st on non-leap years. 2/29 of the scheduled year, that's going to revert to March 1st of the current year if it's not a leap year. If it is a leap year, the month will be 2. So that's how Excel handles dates. If it's a leap year, this is going to be, so we can test it. We can test this using the month. What is the month? If the month is equal to 2, it's a leap year. If it's not, it's a non-leap year. So if it's not equal to 2, if it's, in other words, it'll be equal to 3, March, then the leap year is false. And then what I want to do is I want to hide the column. It's a non-leap year. So KA is the column I focused on. That's the column of February 29th. That's a specific column for a specific date, and that's KA. I want to hide that. Hide the February of 29th, hiding that. Otherwise, we need to show that because it is a leap year. Otherwise, leap year equals true, and then display KA. KA is false. Hidden equals false, meaning we do want to display February 29th. So now we've set the fact that leap year equals false or true, and we've hidden or shown the column based on that. Now we can continue down with our loop. For the project row equals 4 to the last project results row. What is that? That is our loop. Starting here, 4 to the last project row, to 17 in this case. We're going to loop through each one of these. I'm going to take the project name and I'm going to place it right here. We've already sorted it. And then what I want to do is I want to take the project number and I want to put that project number in the actual column for every single one. And then what I want to do is I want to move, actually we're starting in column 228 here. Remember 228. I want to go exactly, I believe, 400 columns over, right? We need 366 days for a year. So in exactly, I'm just gonna in column, starting in column 628, which is 400 columns to the right, I want to place the status. I want to place the project status in that for each one of those. This is going to be for our conditional formatting. So you notice how it shows completed. This is going to use for our conditional formatting. I'll show you that when we get done with this macro. But I want to place the status exactly in the same row, but 400 columns over. And I want to place that status exactly for all of the days of the job, That's going to give us our conditional formatting to color this. In fact, when we've not selected it, it'll color green. So green being completed for all the days over. So we need to do that. So that's going to be run. So again, 3 things that we're going to be doing. 1, we're going to place the project title right here. 2, we're going to place the project number in every single day for the specific project. And 3, we're going to place the project status exactly 400 columns to the right, and we're going to place that for every single day of the project. All right, so we're going to do those 3 things, and I'll show you exactly how we did that inside the code. So first, we're going to start our loop. Next thing, what I want to do is in column HS, or in column HS, I want to place that project name. HS, I'm going to place the project name. And where's that project name? That project name is located right here in column BL of sheet 2. BL, we're going to of the project row and bring that over right here to HS. So that's the first thing we're going to be doing. Range HS and the schedule row equals sheet 2 BL in the project row. We're going to bring that project name over. The next thing what I want to do is I want to make sure there is a start date. That's very important. If there's no start date, we should probably not do anything because we can't. We have to ensure that we need a start date to figure it out. So we need to make sure, let's pull that up in the project list, we need to make sure that BN and the project row actually has a value. So we're going to test that right here. If sheet 2 BN does not equal empty, then we're going to continue our macro. Otherwise, then that's going to be ending if right down here, end if here. So we can't really continue placing it on the schedule if it doesn't have a start date. So we just need to make sure that. All right, so now we can set the start date as a variable. Of course, we've defined both start date and end date here as dates. So we can set the start date equal to BN and the project row. That's going to define the start date. Next thing, I want to define the end date. Now the end date could be one of 2 dates. The end date could be the actual end date here, or the end date could be completed on. So I want to check. If BP has a value, we're going to use that as the end date. If it doesn't have a value, we're going to use the end date, the calculated end date. Remember, we went over in the project manager. If there's actually a completed on date, we're going to use this as the date. So for example, this job has 6 days. What if I change the completed on date to 10? It's just going to increase, so we're going to use that. So we're going to use the completed on date if it exists. Otherwise, we're going to use an end date, which is the calculated based on the duration. Okay, so we have those 2 options. So I need to check that in the VBA code. So If sheet 2 BP does not equal empty, that means we're going to use the completed on date. BP is where our completed on date. BP is where our completed on. If this is not empty, use this date. If it is empty, use this date. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to set that end date based on those two criteria. So if it's not empty, the end date is going to be BP. Otherwise, the end date is going to be BO. So we're going to use the end date or the completed on date as the end date. All right, so now we've defined our end date. Now we have our end date, and now we have our start date. Now we need to determine the project number of days. So the project days is simply the end date minus the start date. That's going to determine the number of days of the projects. And now, of course, what I want to do is I have to remember to add 1 if it's a leap year. Okay, so here we have determined number of days and add in project based on the leap year. The project days, of course, we've covered that. If the leap year equals false and the start date is greater than February 28th, for example, if the start date, so let's take a look at that so it's not confusing. As you know, I have a hidden column right here. That's for the leap year. So for example, if we have a job, let's take a look at this job here. This job starts on 2/28 and lasts for 3 days, But if it's a leap year, we've got a hidden column, so I need to add 1 more day. So we have 1, 2, 3, But it's really 4 days. You see, it's really 4 because we've got that hidden column. So if I right click, unhide, you see we actually have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's only a 3-day job because 1 day is hidden. It's non-leap year. So I need to add 1. So I need to add 1. This is the 3-day job, but it's showing 4 because 1 column is hidden. That's a leap year column. So keep that in mind. So if I refresh it, it's going to re-hide that. And now it's showing 3 days. So basically, if the job starts before and ends after, we need to add 1 to the project days because of that hidden column. So we can do that here. If the leap year is false, which it currently is, and the start date is greater than February 28th, then it's a non-leap year and add 1. So we can add 1 because we need to add 1 column because it's hidden. Otherwise, the leap year add is 0. So we've got that covered. We need to know if it's starting after February, we need to add 1 based on the hidden column. Also, add 1 more day if non-leap year and the project starts on or before February 28th and ends after. That's exactly what this particular project here. It starts on or before February 28th. We take a look at that project, and it ends after. It's a 3-day job. So in this case, it's a 3-day job, but we need to add 1 more day because it's a non-leap year because of that hidden. So again, add 1 more day if non-leap year, not a leap year, and the project starts on or before February 25th and ends after. So those 3 conditions. So if actually we can change this, if month, we can change this to if leap year equals false, we can do that. And if a non-leap year, leap year equals false because we've already defined, and the start date is less than the February 28th, start date is less than or equal, in this case it was, and here's the 3 conditions, end date is greater than or equal to the 28th. Those 3 conditions, we need to add 1 more. Leap year is false, it's a non-leap year, the column is hidden. Start date is less than or equal to February 28th. End date is greater than or equal to 28th. Then add project days. We're just going to add 1 more to the project days. Project days equal project days plus 1. So that's going to add 1 more. All right, now we need to determine the starting column. If you remember correctly, our starting column our first day of January would start on column 228. Remember that. So we're going to be adding 228. That's very important. So our start date, in fact, let's take a look at this. Our start date, BN, we've already defined BN up here. Start date BN. So we can change that start date minus the first of the year. Start date minus the first of the year. B10 is the year, 1/1. So this is going to get us the number of days in the year, So how many? So for example, if we have something starting on January 3rd minus the first of the year is going to get us 2. So we're going to add 228. So that's going to get us our starting column. Number of wherever the start date is minus the first of the year. plus 228 is going to get us the column. So for example, if we have something starting on the 3rd of January, January 3rd minus the first of the year, January 1st would be 2, right? 2 plus 228. So that means our column would start in column 230 would be our start date because it's the 3rd of January. Plus the leap year add. This is going to be 0 because because it starts before the leap year and it's non-leap year. So this would be 0. Leap year here would be 0 after February 28th, but the job we're speaking of starts before. So this would be 0. So a job project starting on January 3rd would start in column 230. We need to know that. So our start column here is defined by that. Next up, we want to make sure our start column is greater than 0. That's very important. If it is, we're going to then put in the information that I said. We have 2 more things. We need to enter the job number, a project number, and we need to enter the project status. So our project, and we need to enter that for every single day of the project. So we're going to start it on the schedule row. We've defined the schedule row. It's going to be a range. Remember, we're putting this in every single day of the project right here. Every single day. I want that project number every single day, all the way here. So for every day. So this is a range of cells. We can use the following lines of code for that. Range, because we're doing it for every cell, starting at the start column and the schedule row. And where are we going to end it at? We're going to end it at the schedule row, of course, the start column plus the number of project days. So that means this entire range is going to get some value, this entire range, starting with the start column, ending with the start column plus the number of project days. So this entire range here is going to get some value. What value is that? It's going to get the project number. And where's that project number located? In sheet 2, BK, and the project row. Let's take a look at that. That is the results, BK and the project row. So it's going to get this project number, regardless of whatever number it is, it's going to put it right in here in each one of these cells right here. The next thing I need to do is I need to move 400 columns over and put the status. Take that status and put it right in here. And where's our status? Of course, our status is located in BM. So the next line of code does just that. Here, if we take a look at the next line of code, again, we have another range, but in this time, our start column, we're going to add 400. Remember, we're going to move 400 columns to the right. So we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to add 400 columns to the right, and we have a brand new range here, 400 columns to the right of our start column. What are we placing there? We're going to place sheet 2 BM. That is our project status. Whatever's in BM and the project row, that is the project status. So if we look over here in BM, we see that our BM is our status. And what are we going to do with that? We're going to take that and we're going to place it in every cell for that. We're going to use that for conditional formatting, which I'm going to go over next. All right, so let's continue on. That is pretty much it as we loop. So then we're going to increase the schedule row and go to the next project row. So we're going to do increase, and now we're ready for the next one. So we're going to do the same thing. Again, put in the project name, put in all the project numbers, and put in the project status, 400 columns. So we're going to do that for every single job, and we run through that loop until we're completed. Once we are completed, I want to select just something else so that there's nothing else highlighted. No other cells are highlighted. We're going to use E4. We could use any cell. We're using E4. And then we're going to, of course, we need to reset the calculations, which is going to turn automatic calculations back on, screen updating to true, and enabling events to true. So we've got all that. That is how we get the data value into our project. So that's how we get all this information into the projects, the project numbers here, and the status here. All right, great. So we've got that, but how do we color? How do we get these really cool colors? Well, we've got conditional formatting to do that. Conditional formatting is fast and efficient, and it works great. So we have a lot of conditional formatting. Let's go ahead and let's start with this. Highlight this and go into Home and Conditional Formatting, and then Manage Rules, and take a look at the values. So what I want to happen is as we add projects, I want them to be colored, and if there's no projects, we don't want them to be colored. So we can use this conditional formatting to do just that. When we edit the rule, we're going to see that HS4, and remember there's no $sign, it's not absolute for the row. The column is absolute, but the row is not. That's very important. If it does not equal 0, then do what? Then give it I could use blank as well, then give it this format. And basically what that format is going to be the faded from, you'll see the fill effects. We're going to take a medium blue and bring it to a light blue here. And then I'm going to use vertical variance, so that we're going to give us that vertical color using this. And if we look in the border, I also want to give it a bottom and right border, bottom and right. I want to give it those two borders so that it gives it a nice design. Otherwise, it's going to be left blank. So that is how we control. Now remember, we're starting on row 4, so we have to make sure that the applies to also is on row 4. That's very important. So the applies to is HS4 and then goes all the way to HS53. So that's the applies to. And what is this rule? Let's take a look at this rule. HS equals 4. If that is the case, what I want to do is I want to hide the left border. Hide the left border if it is, just to make sure that there's no border on the left side. That way, because our actual border is actually thick left border. You see our border is the thick left, so I actually have that border here. It's on every single one. When we format these cells, I click format and I'll bring it up. Well, look, the border, there's an actual border here, left. It's that thick left border, but I want this border hidden if there's nothing there. I want that border hidden. So that's that second conditional formatting to show you that hides this border when the value is 0. So if there's no value here, I want that left border hidden. That is how we do that. All right, now what I want to do is I want to, every selected job I want to know, I want to color it orange automatically. Now how do we know? Now remember, if you correctly, every cell we select in that job has the job number here, 3. So what happens when this job number matches this job number? When those match, when the job number in here, or project number in here, matches the project number here, then I want to color that cell orange. It's a very easy conditional formatting. Let's see how we did that. Into home and then conditional formatting, manage rules. We're going to take a look at the one that's orange, and we want to make sure that this is on top. If we move that down below, the others are going to take precedence. So the orange one must take precedence, meaning it's on top. And of course we can move it just by clicking these, but we want to make sure that's on top. We want the orange, we want to know the selected project automatically, and we don't want any other conditional formatting to take precedence. All right, so we can do this. There's two conditions. I want to make sure that 1, it's not blank, and 2, it contains our. So there's two conditions. That's why we're using the and. And what is it? I4 is where our project number is located, does not equal empty, right? That's one condition. We want to make sure it's not empty. And the second condition is I4 absolute equals HT4. Now HT4 is not absolute. Notice the columns are not absolute and the rows are not absolute. And that is so we can apply to every single cell within our range, and as long as our range starts with the same cell. And if we are applies to, and what are we going to do? We're going to format this, and all I've done is format it with a fill of orange. So that's what I did, and we want to make sure that the applies to also begins with HT4. That's going to allow us to color every cell accordingly based on this. So that means there's any job where, any project where I4 equals HT4, the project equals color it orange. That's how we automatically do. So when we select it, you'll see that the project goes here. But how do we get the project, when we select it, how do we get the project number to go here? Well, that's on worksheet selection change, worksheet selection change. So we go back into the developers, into the Visual Basic, we click on project managers, we have something called selection change all the way down here. And so what do we've added some little code on year view project selection. So there are a couple conditions. If the user selects any value, any cell from HT4 all the way to V53, and there's one other condition, the target value does not equal empty. That means there must be a project number in there. Assuming there's a project number in there, then what I want to do is I want to take I4 and I want it to equal whatever value the user has selected, because our project numbers are located in those cells. I want to take whatever that project number and I want to put it into I4. And of course, anytime there is a change to I4, that automatically loads the project. Remember, change to I4, load the project here. So if there's a change to I4 and B2 is false, that means that's for a new project, as long as it's not new, then load the project. So that means all we have to do is place that project number in i4, and automatically we're going to run the macro that loads the project. So again, all I need to do is simply select on it. It takes whatever values here, it puts it into here, and as soon as we make a change to i4, it's going to run that macro load project. That is how we get it on selection change so that we can put those projects in there. All right, great. So we've got a few other conditional formattings that we haven't covered. We've covered the selected, but what about how do we get these colors to change based on the conditional formatting, based on the status of the project? Well, if you remember correctly, we put the status of that project all the way in here, so we can use that. And of course, our first cell that we're going to be using is XD. XD, that is the first, XD4 is actually our first column in which we are going to apply that. So basically what I want to do is I want a conditional formatting if XD equals completed, color R applies to starting in HT4. That's going to be our first cell. Both of those are not absolute. Let's take a look in the developers, and let's take a look in the conditional formatting and take a look at those rules. So I've got a few more rules. Here it is here. Let's take a look at this rule. If XD4, remember this is non-absolute, make sure there's no $sign. This will cover it for the entire table. XD4 equals completed. If that's completed, then do what? Format green, formatted green. What are we formatting? Well, that's in the applies to HT4 through VU. That is where we want. So if XD4 equals completed, then we are going to color all of these cells. All these cells, whatever cells it applies to, color in green. We're going to do the same thing for yellow. In fact, yellow is going to be two options. If it's in process, XD4 in process, format it yellow. And of course, that's going to apply to HT4, but we're starting in XD4, making sure it's not absolute. And of course, blue, we're using blue for two conditions. One, if it's unassigned, or two, if it's pending. So if either one of those conditions are met, it's going to color blue. Now you can assign your own colors. You can assign as many conditional formatting you want. All you need to do is make sure that we're focused on XD4, and you can change the color to any color you want. Of course, if we change it to a little bit darker blue, click OK, click OK. And the other thing is, you see this font, we also want the font, probably the font color, to be the same. So when we change the font color, I also want that font color to be so that we cannot see any text. Although you really can't see any numbers, but if you could, if you'd expand it, you'd see numbers. This makes the font color, the project number, the same color as the background, which essentially hides the font, hides that project number. So when we click apply, it's going to change those to darker blue. Now we have a darker blue. So that is how we did it. So that's exactly how we changed that based on the conditional formattings, all the way based on the statuses, all the way over here. So that's how we got that. Now, pretty much that's pretty much covers most of the conditional formatting. We have a few other rules. Let's take a look at them based on the formulas, conditional formatting manage rules. I've got a few others. If HS4 does not equal 0, edit the rule. Let's take a look at that. I want a bottom border. I want this border to only show up if there's a value. So for example, as soon as we put a value in here, I want a bottom border to show up here. As soon as we put a value in here, I want a bottom border to show up all the way, and I want it to apply it all the way to the projects. So how do we do that? It's very simple. Into the conditional formatting manage rules, you just saw it. I'll show it briefly. So in this rule, if HS4, remember the 4 is not absolute, the column is absolute, but this applies to everywhere. If it doesn't equal 0, then simply place a bottom border. Here's the border. I want a blue border at the bottom. And where do I want that to apply to? I want that to apply to every single cell from HT4 all the way to VU53. So that's going to place that bottom border as soon as there's a project that comes up. So that's how we get that bottom border. Let's go ahead and continue. I think we've covered most of them, most of the conditional formats we have. Let's take a look at this one. We don't need those. Those are for, let's close that. Let's take a look at conditional formatting, manage rules. All right, so we've got that bottom border. We've got one more. Let's take a look at this. We've covered that one already. Format, that's the right border, and this one is for the days. If you take a look at this, I've got a missing border on the right side. Why is that? Well, I want this particular right border only to show up, this right border for the month, only to show up if there is no value here. So we have that right border here. So I want it disappeared, that right border gone if there's no value. That's right here. Edit the rule. So you look here. If h4 equals 0, then hide this right border. Hide it. And we can do that by clearing it out. This right border is gone. That way, the right border only shows up for values. So as soon as we remove it, that right border is going to be gone. As soon as we remove it, that right border is going to be gone. So that is how we do it. That's how we cover it. All right, we've done a lot. We've covered year view. We've covered how to differentiate between month and year view. We've covered how to click previous in years and how to load the years. We've also covered how to make changes on a specific job and have those changes appear automatically within the specific project. So we've covered a lot. I look forward to bringing you many more. If you have not yet, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for joining this. We're going to cover about probably 9 and 10 on the project manager. So we've got just a few left. If you've got ideas you want me to show, I've had a couple inquiries for showing milestones, so we'll try to get all that in, perhaps notifications if we can. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I always appreciate them. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.